kids, we are going to read another book. And sitting on my ball, so now you can see my whole apartment, which is kind of cool. We're going to read Verdi today. What do you think this book is about? Again, we're going to observe the entire book before we start it. So, on the back it says, when Verdi's mother tells him to grow up big and green, Verdi can't imagine why. All the big green snakes seem lazy, boring, and rude. Besides, he really loves his bright yellow skin and sporty stripes. So Verdi decides he simply won't turn green, which is why he finds himself in a heap of trouble. Here is our first page. This is by Janelle Cannon, which is who we are studying right now. And this week we're going to talk all about what she did in all of her books. I thought this was a very interesting first page. Here we go. On a small tropical island, the sun rose high above the steamy jungle. A mother python was sending her hatchlings out into the forest the way all mother pythons do. Grow up big and green as the tree leaves, she called to her little yellow babies as they happily scattered among the trees. But Verdi dawdled. He was proudly eyeing his bright yellow skin. He especially liked the bold stripes that zigzagged down the back. Why the hurry to grow up big and green, he wondered. Maybe some of the older snakes in the jungle could tell him. Verdi ventured into the treetops to look for them. Umbles, Aggie, and Ribbon were lying on some branches nearby. Verdi peered at their droopy green bodies. It's not polite to stare, chided Aggie. Umbles barked and groaned. It's taken nearly 4 weeks for that last lizard to digest. I surely do like lizards, but lizards don't like me. Why don't lizards like you? Asked Verdi. Don't interrupt, Umbles grumbled. Dear me, whined Aggie. If I don't shed soon, this itchy skin will drive me bananas. Verdi tapped a tune with his tail as he waited to speak. Stop that, Verdi. It makes me nervous, Ribbon complained. Besides, you'll never grow up to be properly green, always interrupting and constantly fidgeting. Verdi couldn't imagine being in such a hurry to be like them, and he really wanted to keep his sporty stripes. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. Here's a picture. Dozer was snoring in a tree not far from the others. Hello, said Verdi. Do you want to climb trees with me? I'm tired, Dozer growled. Go do a few laps around the jungle, okay? Verdi's heart sank. Greens were not lazy and boring. They were rude. What do you think of Verdi so far? I feel like he's pretty aggressive and wants to be kind of like his own snake, not like the others. What do you think of the older snakes Verdi calls the greens? These guys. Ooh. They do kind of seem boring and crabby. Here's our next picture. At the top of a very tall tree, Verdi gripped one branch with his tail and another with his little snake jaws. I will never be lazy, boring, or green, he thought. I will jump and climb and keep moving so fast that I will stay yellow and striped forever. Then, Verdi let go. What's happening in this picture? He just got flung, right? He just did that to himself. It's a spunky snake. I would freak out if a snake was flying through the air like that. So there he is in the air. From a distance, the greens watched. Oh my, they chorused. Ribbon shook his head. At this rate, he'll be lucky to make it to its first molt. Angie nodded. He's likely to put an eye out on a branch. Umbles moaned. He may not live to turn green. The snakes like molt their skin when it comes off, and he's saying he may not live to be able to do that. But one day, Verdi's skin began to peel, revealing a pale green stripe stretching along the whole body. Cack! He gasped. How can this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green. He raced down to the river, grabbing up a mouthful of rough leaves. You can kind of see how he's starting to change there. What does he look like? Does he look excited? He looks pretty terrified. Verdi flung himself into the water. If I can't run this green off, I'll scrub it off, he thought. His frantic splashing caught the eye of a large bottom feeder cruising the murky depths. Yum, the old fish hummed. Lunch. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Apoo! With this blast of rubbery lips, the great fish sneezed, sending Verdi into the air. Slapping onto the soggy shore, Verdi skidded out of reach. That would be a sight to see. Whew, that was close. He sputtered. Every inch of his body was covered with wet, gloppy mud. Kind of lumpy, kind of brown. It sure beats being green. He left the mud on. But the soft brown muck dried into a hard gray shell, and Verdi could barely move. If he ever budged, the stuff cracked off in jagged chunks. As each piece fell away, Verdi could see that his body was even greener than before. This is terrible, cried Verdi. He pictured himself hanging around in droopy loops, itching and complaining and worrying all day like the old greens. He looked up into the sky, where the sun blazed a beautiful yellow, just the color he used to be. Then he pulled a vine to the top of the tree. Launching himself from the treetop, Verdi startled a flock of colorful birds. He became dizzy with delight, sure the bright sun and the lofty speed would turn him golden again. In his joy, Verdi forgot he would fall back to earth. Verdi has been acting very strangely. What do you think he's trying to avoid? And do you think it's going to work? He's trying to avoid being green. I don't really think it's going to work. It doesn't sound like it's going to. Whippity, whappity, flip, flap, wham! Plummeting through the trees, Verdi landed in a crooked sprawl across a log on the forest floor. He couldn't move. Help, he croaked. As usual, the greens had been watching Verdi's antics. They moved quickly to where he lay. Didn't we say it would come to this? Umble said, shaking his head. Aggie sighed. Your lucky thing he's still got 2 good eyes. They gently lifted Verdi up to a safer place, where they could watch over him while he healed. So the greens are actually pretty nice. Neatly splinted to a branch, so like how you would splint your arm in a cast if it was, or in a splint if it was broken or sprained. They splinted him to the tree. Look at that. Verdi had no choice but to listen to the greens as they gabbed. Remember how I used to streak across the forest floor? Ribbon asked. Quick as lightning, answered Angie. And I climbed giant trees like they were nothing. They grew taller than you know. The things I dared to run down and swallow, Umbles bragged. Wild boar were no match for me. Verdi was astonished. You used to run and climb? And hunt giant pigs? What happened? Ribbon crashed. Just like you, Andrew replied. I took a terrible fall and almost put an eye out. Then old Umbletier nearly choked to death. Now we all prefer the quiet life. A warm perch, a little sunshine, and an occasional good meal. The Greens rambled on about their days of glory, and Barry settled in on his branch. Finally, one afternoon, Umble said, Looks like you're ready to go again. He carefully untied Verdi from the branch. You're welcome to come with us, said Angie. Ribbon agreed. The three Greens slipped quietly back into the forest. Verdi wasn't ready to join them. He wasn't sure where he wanted to go. So he just stretched and stayed put until the sun went down. He listened to the forest come alive. What's happening in this picture? Here's Verdi, here's everyone else. They're leaving, and he's kind of sitting there and being a little boring, like the Greens used to be. Time passed. The sun and moon turned in the sky. Verdi marveled at the full moon, grew thinner every night. Then he watched patiently as it slowly grew round again. So that's like over a month period of time. This is all happening. He wondered why he hadn't noticed that before. Verdi became so green that he blended perfectly with the leaves. He was so still that other creatures walked right by without seeing him. One fine morning, as Verdi basked in the sunshine, two small yellow snakes approached. They tapped and fidgeted as they stared. Get a load of that old green guy, one of them whispered. Do you think he ever moves? The other snickered. I seriously doubt it. They're just like I used to be, thought Verdi, and I'm now what I was afraid to be. He looked at his big green body and slowly smiled. How would you like to climb trees with me? He asked. With you? The yellows were astounded. I'll even show you my fancy figure 8, Verdi replied, though he was a little worried about putting his eye out. With practice, the three snakes performed a perfect triple figure 8. Leaping and looping with his little striped friends, Verdi laughed. I may be big and very green, but I'm still me. And then here's some snake notes, which we're going to review when I see you guys in person. So, what did you notice about this book? Overall message. Like, what did you learn from the story? Think about it. So we're going to tell it over our fingers. I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, then this. First, I learned that some snakes are yellow when they are born. Then I learned that they molt and turn green. I learned that some snakes can do figure 8s. I learned that maybe you don't judge people by what they're acting like, because there might be a reason behind it. And I learned that you can still be yourself, even if you are a different color. And that is all of our reading for today. We're going to review some more of it next week, and you guys have a good day. Bye.